Hey drummers, how's it going, and welcome to this week's exclusive lesson for you wonderful sponsors. What we're going to be taking a look at today is essentially what we're going to start off with a really basic groove. We're going to concentrate on the placements of the kick drum and the snare drum. Then we're going to turn into a linear pattern just between the kick, the snare and the hi-hat. Then we're going to really sort of spruce it up with some audio garnish by trying to sort of utilise as much of the kit as we can. And in this particular case, I'm going to be using as many of these sort of effect symbols. So we've got like an oriental crash or a china. We've got a little splash over here, which you probably can't see from this angle, but you'll be able to see it from up there. We'll be using the bell of the ride. We're going to get both the toms involved, and we're going to sort of transform this sort of bog standard drum beat into something way more exciting. So if you like what you saw in the intro and you want to give this bad boy a crack, stick around and I'll break it down. Here we go. All right, so the way we're going to go about things is we're going to look at this very basic groove, just 8th notes on the hi-hats. The placement of the bass drums and snare drums are going to be kick on beat 1, snare drum on beat 2, a kick on the and of beat 2, and then a snare drum on beat 4. All right, so it's really simple and it's going to allow loads of space for us to sort of fill in the gaps with some cool little sound effects. So let's just start off, straight 8th notes on the hi-hat, sort of the most conventional way of playing a nice little groove like this. There we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so for the purpose of this particular lesson, we want to keep that bass drum and that snare drum in the same place throughout the whole groove. But what we're going to do, take the hands. We'll start off just by sort of learning a nice little pattern between the kick and the between the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. And then once we've got that down, we're then going to sort of transpose that idea, reorchestrate it around the kit, bring in china, splash, bell of the ride, high tom, floor tom, snare drum. We will add some more notes in there because we've got all this extra space, so we're going to chuck in some 16th notes, especially towards the end. And that will give us a nice little groove which sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This is for measure 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Boom, snare, boom. Boom, snare, boom, snare. All right, so bass drum, snare drum, still in the same place. We've added a couple of extra hi-hats. But not playing them with the kick on the snare, so they sort of like have their own voice and they've got like a purpose. So you want to make sure they've got lots of clarity, especially when we start chucking some of these effect symbols in there. Now, measure 2 of this, in fact, I'll go over the sticking. So what I've got down is I've got kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. A little bit faster. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. A little bit faster. I mean, if you wanted to, you could play those 2 hi-hats there. So kick. You could do a double right, but when we start moving this around the kit, we're actually going to turn that into like a little. So it's better to start bringing your left hand in for that second of those 2 hits on the hi-hat. If we now look at the second half of this, we're going to start off exactly the same. Kick, right, left, kick. But then we have a bit of fun with beats 3 and 4, and we're just going to play straight 16th, single strokes. We're going to play 3E and then 4E and giving us. So sticking wise, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. I think I've actually lied because I did say we weren't going to touch the snare drums, but we are going to change that final snare drum that we would normally play on beat 4. We're turning to 4/16, but it's not going to disrupt the flow. The kicks are in the same place and all the other snare drums are in the same place as well. So I have taken a few liberties with this one. Let's now take measure 1 and measure 2 and play them back to back. And you can already hear it's starting to sound way more exciting than playing. Okay, we haven't changed anything, so your guitarist, your bass player, they'll still be happy, but they're still going to hear this cool little pattern come out, which is going to sound a little bit different, catch the listener off guard, and then give that drum kit a true voice, almost something like slightly melodic, especially when we start bringing in all these other bits. So let's go through this one more time, and then we'll speed it up, and then we'll start playing around some really exciting orchestrations. So here we go. We've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right, left, right. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right, left, right, right, left. I'm now going to shut up and play a bit faster. So here we go. so that is our sort of linear groove just played between the kick, snare and the hi-hat. Now we can keep the same sticking, and obviously everyone's going to have a slightly different setup for their drum kit. Obviously I'm not just going to assume that you've got like a china on the go, a little splash, but I'm going to assume you've got like a ride cymbal, a hi-hat, at least one rack tom and a floor tom. So what we can do, whenever I'm hitting these two, you can just maybe exchange those for like a normal cymbal, like a normal crash cymbal. You can maybe just sort of like use the hi-hat instead of like the china or the splash, anything like that. The idea is to take that pattern we played there between the kick, snare and the hi-hat, apply your own voices, and therefore completely change the sound of the groove, making it 100% your own. All right, so here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to start off. The pattern is kick, right, left, right. And we're going to start off with kick, right, left. I was lying. It's kick, right, left, kick. So we've got kick, right, left, kick. So the first hit we're going to do is on this nice quick decay china. Then for our right, left, right, we're going to play bell. I've got a splash over here, splash, snare. So far we've got kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. And it's already sounding completely different to how we had it on the hi-hat, between the kick drum and the hi-hat, and already completely different to when we were just playing the 8 notes. And it's exactly the same, so no one else in the band can complain. All right, so here we go. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. Kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right. Right, now what do we have? We've got the second half of this, which is going to be kick, right, left, kick. Okay, so now we're going to bring the high tom into it. So still, the sticking remains the same. Kick, high tom, snare, kick. And then at the end of this bar, we had 4/16 for beat 3. We're going to play those on the floor tom. And then for beat 4, we're going to keep them on the snare. So we're going to end up with this. Kick, tom, snare, kick, floor, 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 snare, snare. A little bit faster. All right, and in their own right, they sound pretty good just as like little 1-bar loops. So if you wanted to, you could just take some of these ideas, mix it up a little bit. If you wanted to, you could just sort of maybe, instead of using a floor tom, you could use a hi-hat. All right, it's a really nice little idea. We're not changing the sticking at all. We're just changing the voices, and that's what's going to give it this nice, unique sound and essentially give the drummer some. So let's see if we can now let's see if we can now put measure 1 and measure 2 with all these nice, fun orchestrations. So part 1. Let's now speed that up and see what it sounds like. I've got to work on my bell accuracy. That's a sentence. Okay, let's try it one more time. If you haven't got a china and a splash, and you want to get something going like this, a nice little replacement, I'm going to assume you've got a ride cymbal, because most people generally have a ride cymbal for a standard kit setup. We'll just replace the china and the ride. We'll get a hi-hat in there, because that sounds quite nice. Maybe, yeah, we'll start off with the ride. That kind of works. Okay, so we've got kick, bell, snare, kick, and then we're going to go high tom, hi-hat, snare. So that's another idea you can play around with if you haven't necessarily got some of these effect cymbals. You just replace the drum or the cymbal that you're going to hit instead of that, and you're still going to get a really cool effect. The reason I'm sort of doing this lesson is we just had like an online songwriting course for some young musicians. So there'd be drummers, guitarists, string players, horn players, and stuff like that. And then the music director sort of said to us, like, I want to, we'll keep it in 4/4. I want it to be, I want it to flow nicely, but I don't want to hear just like a standard, like, 8th notes on the hi-hat, 16th notes on the hi-hat, a boom, to, ga, to, boom, boom, ga. Go and be creative. So this is one of the things we did. We took some really simple grooves, then we looked at sort of playing the notes individually between the kick snare and the hi-hat, and then started orchestrating around the kit. And before you know it, you've got these sort of almost melodic little rhythms that you can come up with, which just sound really, really nice, and it just gives the drums like a real voice in the song. So I hope you like that idea. I'm going to pop up there. I'll play both the sort of like kick snare and hi-hat variation before we, a few speeds, and then I'll do the same thing with this idea we've got where we're using all these effects symbols. All right, so without further ado, let's pop up there and start smashing it out. Here we go. All right, I'll play the kick snare and hi-hat version, nice and slow a few times round, so here we go. Let's do the orchestration now, but nice and slow still. Right, speed it up a tiny bit. Alright guys, so there it is. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. It's a real fun concept to play around with. Just take any groove that you know, like a nice basic and see if you can then maybe turn it into a linear version of that, keeping those kicks and snares in the same place, and then see if you can take that linear pattern and start expressing yourself by using all these different parts of the kit. You can use the rim of the drums, you can use the stands of the cymbals, you've got the bells on each of the cymbals, you can get some different textures and dynamics out of your hi-hat, your snare drum, your toms, your splash cymbals, your chinas, anything. So go away, have some fun with it. It'd be great to see what you guys can come up with. And if you want the sheet music for this particular groove, obviously you can just download that. It's just underneath this video if you're watching from the website, and I've probably put a transcription throughout the video anyway. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll keep these drum lessons coming thick and fast. Until next time, take care, keep drumming, and I'll see you later. All right, bye.